We're told in Isaiah, in the book of Isaiah, that God shares his glory with nobody. And this is sometimes a suggestion that's made is sometimes that because Jesus says, glorify me, God, in John chapter 17, he must be God because God shares his glory with nobody. But people just seem to forget that in the same chapter, Jesus says that he will give the glory that he has been given by the Father to the disciples too.
Alex O'Connor cooking David Wood in hot grease. Welcome back to another one, y'all. Giving all praises to the Most High in the name of his Son. True names in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. This debate happened, well, it was put out a day ago on Alex O'Connor. David Wood, he re-uploaded it. And see, this is what you happen. This is what happens, David Wood. So David Wood be approaching us and antagonizing us and scoffing at us and all of that. I know you, David Wood. You know what we call you. We call you Hammerman. We're not going to talk about that story, though. Hammerman. Anyway, Alex O'Connor cooking David Wood in hot grease. I felt bad for David Wood during this. And, you know, the old saying goes is this. A organized lie always defeats a disorganized truth. And the Trinity is not even a disorganized truth. It's just a 3rd century framework, man-made, cultivated doctrine, biblically unfounded, and it's idolatrous and blasphemous to say the least, and it just does not hold up to scrutiny. Without further ado, y'all, I just been looking at the rebuttals. I haven't even got to the second rebuttals or the cross-examination. I am on my journey to doing 100 videos this week as of April 6, 2025. Spring break, my children are off. I'm locked in by myself at the house, at the cribbo. 100 videos in 1 week, y'all. Pray for me. And this is a part of the series right now. I may go live a few times, but this is going to be mostly pre-recordings. I'm going to put some out this week, but I'll just have them locked and loaded and just coming out as the future goes. And hey, y'all, I'm excited about this. A lot of edification. But anyway, without further ado, y'all, big G's, not the little ones, here to feed the little ones. Let's go. Genesis. We'll start with David Wood's first rebuttal. Look at this, y'all.
All right. So we have John 17:5. And now, Father, glorify me in your presence with the glory I had with you before the world began. Why? Alex quoted John 17 to show that Jesus is just claiming some regular relationship that we can all have with God or something along those lines. What does Jesus say in the same chapter that Alex is quoting? And now, Father, glorify me in your presence with the glory I had with you before the world began.
This is so bad because I believe Alex O'Connor highlighted John 17:3, where the Messiah says the Father is the only true God. You don't not address that head on and go to the next verse. You address it head on, and then you bring out this point, and also in the same chapter, blah, 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 blah. David Wood is not really good at these formal debates. Shouldn't have took it, my man.
Sounds like Jesus is claiming to have glory with the Father before the world began. Doesn't sound like he's claiming to be a regular guy. Doesn't sound like he's saying, oh, you guys are just misunderstanding everything I said. It's just one big misunderstanding. So what Jesus does.
And who is this white guy? See, this is why I always say Christianity is a white supremacist cult. They couldn't even have an Arab Jesus. They couldn't even have a Sephardic Jesus, a Mizrahi Jesus, a crypto Jesus, dang. They got this guy who's not even from the Levantine area. This guy is straight from the Caucasus Mountains of Georgia, Russia, and I guess that's Jesus.
What Jesus does, we've looked at it. I think he said he's going to respond to it. So what does Jesus do? He's the judge. He's the final judge of all people, according to him. Again, the Old Testament says that Yahweh is the one who's going to sit on his throne in judgment. Jesus said, yeah, that's me. The Old Testament says that Yahweh is the one who raises the dead. Jesus says that he's the one who raises the dead at the resurrection. The people in their graves are going to hear the voice of the Son of God.
Now, I'm going to really take my time and make a plethora of videos off of this debate here. But look at Alex O'Connor's rebuttal to his John 17:5 exegesis. Oh my Lord. It's bad, brothers and sisters.
Is in him. I just ask which interpretation lends itself more nicely to the passages. David's rebuttal there seemed to suggest that I was under the impression that Jesus is just some dude. That is far, far from the case, especially in John's Gospel, where Jesus seems to posit himself as something of a model of faith for his disciples. And for what it's worth, this is kind of the image that I get of Jesus reading through the Gospels. What is he supposed to be? Something like an idyllic, faithful servant of God, and certainly in a special position. If you include the epistles in particular, then Jesus is, of course, exalted. But
punch landed. I mean, his rebuttals were absolutely destroying David Wood. And let's get to the highlight of this video, because Alex O'Connor had to be watching the Israelites. I'm telling you, he's getting all our talking points, man. He's stealing from, talking about seizing and stealing. He's stealing from us.
Again, it just reads to me as if at least while on earth, Jesus is certainly not approximating Yahweh, but he's also not just some dude. David mentioned the glory that's given to Jesus in John chapter 17, verse 5, the same chapter that I was using. Yeah. Verse 5, Father, glorify me in the presence that I had with you before the world was created. Just keep reading John chapter 17 and see what Jesus wants to do with that glory.
Incoming body bag, incoming bomb. This is bad. This is about to get bad.
In fact, the very passage that I quoted, my prayer is not for them alone, I pray that all may be one, Father, just as you're in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, blah, blah, blah. Immediately afterwards, so they may be brought into complete unity. Then they will know, I've copied the wrong passage actually. Jesus says that the glory you've given me, I will give to them. In John chapter 17. He says, the glory you've given me, I will give to them, the disciples.
Sometimes you gotta pop out.
We're told in Isaiah, in the book of Isaiah, that God shares his glory with nobody. And this is sometimes, a suggestion that's made is sometimes that because Jesus says, glorify me, God, in John chapter 17, he must be God because God shares his glory with nobody. But people just seem to forget that in the same chapter, Jesus says that he will give the glory that he has been given by the Father to the disciples too. Again, all I'm asking you to consider is however you interpret these verses where Jesus is given glory, Jesus is given the judgment, and bear in mind that Jesus is given all of these things, what he then does with those things, and whether he delegates them to other people. Because if he does, then it's clearly not just something that can be delegated to God himself. Only God judges. Only God can judge, but Jesus says that he will judge. Jesus also promises judgment over the 12 tribes of Israel to the disciples. So are the disciples God.
Wow.
Jesus forgives sins, and only God can forgive sins. In John chapter 20, verse 21, he says, as the Father has sent me, again, kathos, just as the Father has sent me, I'm sending you. If you forgive people's sins, their sins will be forgiven. If you do not, their sins will be retained. I'm told that only God forgives sins, but then Jesus gives that ability to his disciples.
Wow.
In other words, all of these things which are supposed to indicate that Jesus has a special relationship with God, of course he does, but it's a relationship that he hopes and literally prays that will be shared with everybody. Also, this Luke chapter 6.
Wow. He was cooking with hot grease. I mean, that's Christians' argument that in John 17:5, they go to Isaiah, they say, he shares his glory with nobody. And then they says, well, look, he's sharing his glory here with Christ. But then they forget in verse 22, Christ is sharing that same glory. So does this make the disciples a part of the Godhead Trinity too? John 17:22, in the glory which thou gavest me, I have given them, that they may be one even as we are one. Hot grease. The same thing in Revelation 3:25. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne. Oh, he has a throne in heaven, so he's the Most High God. But then he says those that overcome will get to sit in that same throne. So are those that overcome who sits in that same throne a part of the Trinity? No. Revelation 2 and 25 to 26. Or 26 to 27. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations. And he shall rule them with the rod of iron, as the vessels of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I received of my Father. So wait, he received some glory and power from the Father, which only God is supposed to get, but he's giving that to the same people that overcome. It's the same thing with, Jesus is the part of the Godhead. So when you look at this word in the Greek for Godhead, it's divine nature. Well, 2 Peter chapter 1 verse 4 says, whereby are given unto us exceeding and great precious promises, that by these you might be partakers of the divine nature. Wow. So if I partake in the divine nature, I'm now the Trinity. I'm part of the Trinity. I'm now the Most High God? Absolutely not. So we know that this is dealing with the Most High God, the Father, Yahweh, some call Yahweh. He can dispense glory to another entity, but never on his level. So yes, Alex O'Connor was cooking in hot grease. I haven't finished this. This is the part. This is about where I stopped at. I didn't look at the opening statement or any opening statements. I'm just kind of focusing on rebuttals and cross-examinations. That's when it gets fiery. But yeah, y'all, 100 videos in 1 week. Pray the Lord be with me. We're going to end this, and we're on to the next. Peace out.